Being respected for me is more important than being liked.
You have handled both the skies and the racetrack. Literally life or death or win or lose environments.
When I started racing, most often I would be the only girl in the championship and on the racetrack.
The equality starts from the home.
Yeah, I feel most of the movies that we see are centered around the male hero, where the male hero comes and saves the day.
What's one thing companies get wrong about inclusion?
I think that is limited to gender only.
How do you personally navigate them or call them out without getting labeled as difficult?
And I think that shaped me as considering myself as an individual before I consider myself as female.
That inclusion does not mean asking people to fit in. Welcome to another episode of We Think Equal podcast, powered by NEC India, where we explore bold conversations around inclusion, equality, and the future of work. We Think Equal reflects NEC's commitment to building an inclusive world where equality is not just an idea, but a way of working, leading, and growing together. Through this platform, we bring forward real conversation that challenges norms, share diverse perspective, and inspire meaningful change, both in workplace and beyond. I am your host, Mahesha, CFO at NEC India, and today's conversation is one I have been truly looking forward to. We are challenging the idea of man's job and woman's job, a concept that should have been retired decades ago and still lingers in many workplaces. To help us rethink this, I am joined by someone who lived and thrived in spaces where women are still the exception. Sneha Sharma is a senior commander Airbus captain, a Formula 4 racing champion, and the only Indian woman to have represented the country in international motorsport at this level. Sneha, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sneha, let's start with the invisible walls, biases that still exist even when companies say they support women. In your experience, what are some of the unconscious biases that continue to show up in workplace and the teams?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question and one which needs to be addressed. I think gender bias, age bias, and cultural biases still exist. And a lot of time the perception of the person asking the question is biased, and they think a woman employee may not understand as well. And I think that really needs to change. So, yes.
Yeah, maybe my follow-up question to that is how do you personally navigate them or call them out without getting labeled as difficult?
Well, I usually follow procedures and I keep in mind what is expected of me at work. And long back in racing, I realized that being respected for me is more important than being liked. I think a lot of young women in patriarchal societies are raised with the expectation of being liked and likable, and I think that hinders their personal as well as professional growth. And I tried to overcome that at a young age in my motorsport career. And I think I put my work ethic and respect before being excessively likable, and I think that helped me manage it.
A great answer, Sneha. Thank you for that. And the next question from my side is, change starts at the top. What can leaders and decision makers do to actively break gender stereotype at work, not just in words, but in policies and practices?
Yes, I think addressing an employee as an individual before male or female really helps the employee come forward and work as a professional. And in terms of policies, I really think most companies should have a special wing of HR which can help women with their specific requirements in a company and the challenges that they face. I think that in terms of policies can really help women employees come forth and excel in their careers.
Have you ever seen great examples of inclusive leadership in action?
Yes, this reminds me of an international racing championship I'd gone for in Austria. And it was a championship where 50 women across the globe were selected to participate in a Formula 3 selection process for a championship. And the best part about this championship was that the CEO of this championship was a lady. And I think that was really leading by example, and that's what really resonated with the whole championship.
Okay. Yeah, so Sneha, my third question is, you have handled both the skies and the racetrack, literally life or death or win or lose environments. How can organization empower women to step into these high responsibility roles without setting them up for extra scrutiny, unrealistic expectations?
Yes, that's a great question. I think training plays a huge role in a skill-based profession, and I think that's how organizations can really encourage women and men to come forth and reach their potential. And I think constructive criticism to men and women alike really helps both of them come forth and reach their potential, and not being biased to be extra, for a lack of better words, soft when criticizing a female employee or a male employee, because that I think hinders their professional growth. And I think the employee as well should be strong enough to be able to take that criticism and consider themselves as an individual professional, and not just by the gender.
So do mentorship and team culture play a role here?
Yes, I truly believe I've had the privilege of having great mentors in my motorsport career, and that really helped me peak as a motorsport athlete. And having a positive team environment really helps somebody be more outspoken and ask questions and be more of a team player, and I think that really helps.
Yeah. So the next question is more towards diversity versus inclusion. We often celebrate numbers. For example, specific percentage of our hired workforce are females, but that is diversity. What, in your opinion, is the difference between that and the true inclusion?
I think true inclusion is for a person to have a voice, whether it be in meetings, in projects, or even assignments, to be able to speak up. And I think that comes from the environment, which we discussed in our previous conversation. So I think if the leader is more vocal about asking questions and allows the employee to voice their opinions in a meeting, for example, I think the person will have more confidence to come forth and feel included.
Yeah. So have you ever seen in a room where you felt present but not heard?
Yes, I do remember when I started racing, most often I would be the only girl in the championship and on the racetrack. So I would see a group of racing drivers, mostly all males, standing and talking, having a conversation about the racing lines. But when I would go there and try to be a part of this conversation, I would see that the conversation would suddenly stop. So I used to wonder, why am I not being included? But I chose to channel all of that disappointment in my driving and let my performance speak for itself. And I think with time it's changed, and we see a lot of more women coming in motorsport, and the environment being more friendly.
So my next question, Sneha, on how do we change the narrative for the future generation? So if we want the next generation to see all jobs as a gender neutral, what needs to shift at home, in classroom, and in the media?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think in the classroom, although I have a lot of respect for our education system, but a lot of times in a school book, it will be written that the mother is working in the kitchen while the father is out at work or comes home from work. So I think for the books to portray a mother as a working professional would really help a child perceive women in their coming life as a professional and not just a homemaker, which is also a very respectable profession or a role for a woman. I completely agree. When it comes to media, I feel most of the movies that we see are centered around the male hero, where the male hero comes and saves the day. I think more movies where women come forth and are the hero of the movie will train the young minds, which are really impressionable, to think equally when it comes to gender. And at home, as cliche as this may sound, I think for the male and female parents both to perform household chores would train the young mind to perceive male and female equally.
Yeah, I truly believe in that, in the sense, especially the equality starts from the home. Sometimes I feel, in my life, my mother is the brand ambassador of equality. She does not treated anybody differently. It's all equal. So very good answer. What advice would you give young girls who want to chase the unconventional dreams?
I would tell young girls that whenever you pick up your pen, turn on your computer, or even pick up your tools, consider yourselves only and only as a trained professional and not as a man or a woman.
Great. Okay, Sneha, we are closing in on a segment we call Break the Bias, Quick Fire 10. 10 rapid fire prompts to rethink gendered stereotype at work. Answer in one line, quick, honest, and real. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, true or false? Gender neutral job descriptions make a difference.
Yes, they do. I think any manual or any procedures will say he should perform this task. But if we write he or she should perform this task, really helps the reader.
Yeah. What's one stereotype about leadership we need to retire?
I think it's that the leader should always be male.
Is culture fit sometimes used to mask bias?
Yes.
What's one thing companies get wrong about inclusion?
I think that it's limited to gender only.
If you hear she's too ambitious, you say?
Bravo.
One word to describe an inclusive workplace.
Equal opportunity.
Should gender be part of how performance is assessed?
No.
What's one question every manager should ask their team?
Do you feel included?
True or false? People with potential don't always look like people in power.
True. I truly believe that a person with potential may not be pompous or may not power dress or power talk or have a very firm handshake. But I think true potential can be identified by a good leader and can be developed, and I think it should be appreciated.
Your message in 3 words to anyone breaking stereotypes.
It is possible.
Good. Before we wrap up, what's one mindset shift you wish more people in leadership, education, or even families would make when it comes to gender and careers?
Yeah, I think as we earlier spoke that a lot of shaping of the youth happens at home. So I think for parents to raise their child as an individual before a boy or a girl or male or female would really help. For example, growing up, we were 2 sisters and we did all the heavy lifting. I'm also from a girls' school. We did all the heavy lifting. For example, if we had to pull a chair, it wouldn't be assigned to a boy because he's perceived to be stronger. It would be assigned to any other girl and we would do it. And I think that shaped me as considering myself as an individual before I consider myself as female.
Anything on, anything change, mindset change in leadership or education, I think you touched upon. Anything on leadership?
I think leadership, we should all identify our own biases because we all are prone to them, and if as a leader somebody is biased, might have a gender bias or might have an age related bias, they should ask themselves, self-reflect, and after the day that in my meeting or in my conversation did I shun anyone, did I interrupt anyone while talking because I am biased? I think self-reflection in leadership would really help.
That's powerful, Sneha. At NEC India, we believe that inclusion does not mean asking people to fit in. It means creating space where everyone can stand out. Thank you, Sneha, for your time, your voice, and your leadership.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. To all our listeners, thank you for joining us. If you found this conversation valuable, share it. Start a conversation in your own workplace. And most importantly, challenge the stereotype today. Until next time, this is Mahesha signing off from We Think Equal, the podcast by NEC India.